Dr. Michael Brown, a professor at Caltech, is on the hunt. He is not alone in his efforts toward discovery. He has a professor, Dr. Konstantin Batygin, as a colleague. He stated that many people think they are enemies because they shout at each other in their excitement, phrases like, "You are crazy, that just can't be," or no way, you are way off base here." In actuality, they are the best of buds, and to their carpet between their offices down the hallway, they have worn a path. It is almost down to the floor due to their need to use each other's differing skills and talents. Mike has the ability to look at the sky and affixes everything in the context of what can be seen. Constantine uses dynamics, considering mathematically how something might work from a physics standpoint. Observation and theory, each working together to find the ninth planet. It has been proven to be out there, but no one has yet to see it. The telescopes at W.M. Keck Observatory and the Subaru telescope, Subaru in Japanese means unity, are on Mount Maui Kea on the island of Hawaii. Astrophysicists are working there in this beautiful part of the world. Our view of the heaven is in transition, and you can bet that one day we will awaken to another planet, 6 to 8 times bigger than our Mother Earth, and out there, and it will be known. Psalm 32 is chock full of transitions. We heard of the transition of the psalmist, moaning, silent, God's hand heavy on the writer every minute of the day. God was imagined last week sprouting wings. This week, he has been given the human characteristic of a hand and uses it to set up a consequence. God perceives what is happening on our planet and responds. In the Psalms, this is not the only image of a powerful hand in action. God at times uses hands to hold weapons, to be a victor, or to plant people in fertile soil. God uses a sword as well as a spade, clearing a way and cultivating, a way towards newness and vitality. Just like the fire areas are full of wildflowers as seeds burst into color, you have been going out and seeing them. There are some who are not here in worship this morning, and I know where they are. They told me they're going to see the wildflowers. Due to the forest fires, they are in full bloom, and the rain. Following the groaning and moaning comes a realization by the composer of 32 that God can instruct, lead, protect, and offer counsel. The writer tells us not to be mules and need heavy equipment to stay on the well-worn path between offices, mountains, or truths. If we follow our instructor, we will end up rejoicing and shouting for joy. The writer of Luke is quite insistent about finding and returning the lost. In a moment, I will read our gospel reading for today, the parable of the Prodigal Son. But prior to this parable come 2 other stories. Parables are extended metaphors wherein meaning is found within the story, but it is not completely contained there. One can go further than the parable and continue to find meaning. It is not completely clearly stated. The parable of the lost coin is right before the story. A woman has 10 coins, loses one, and cleans and cleans and cleans and cleans until she finds that lost one. Before that is the parable of the lost sheep. There are 100 sheep. There are only 99 to be found. One is missing. The 99 are left to find the one. More celebration occurs when the number equals 100. Next up, and in order in Luke, is the parable of the prodigal son. Jesus is speaking to the Pharisees and the scribes who are grumbling and upset. And why are they grumbling? Because Jesus is associating with improper people. The religious, well-educated folks are the ones who are the audience for this story. May you hear this very familiar tale in a new way at this time in your life. See what human conditions and emotions it points out. It's Luke 15, 1 through 3, and 11 through 32. Now all the tax collectors and sinners were coming near to listen to him. And the Pharisees and scribes were grumbling and saying, "This fellow welcomes sinners and eats with them." Then Jesus said, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me.' So the father divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had, traveled to a distant country, and there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and yet no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare, and here I am dying of hunger? I will get up, go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to become called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off, went to his father. But while he was still far, far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, put it on him. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate. Now his elder son was in the field, and when he came and approached the house, he heard music and dancing. He called one of the slaves and asked what was going on. He replied, 'Your brother has come. Your father has killed the fatted calf because he has got him back, safe and sound.' Then he became angry and refused to go in. His father came out to him and began to plead with him. But he answered his father, 'Listen, for all these years I have been working like a slave for you. I have never disobeyed your command. Yet you have never given me a young goat, even a young goat, so that I might celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours comes back, who has devoured your property with prostitutes, you killed the fatted calf for him.' Then the father said to him, 'Son, you are always with me. All that is mine is yours. But we had to celebrate and rejoice because this brother of yours was dead and has come to life. He was lost and has been found.'" Words of wisdom, words of grace. Thanks be to God. This story is shocking in its radicalness as offered by the main character, the father. The definition of prodigal is delineated clearly: excessive waste of resources, time, or relationships. Everything is narrated in extremes. The father gives all he has and divides his property up prior to his death. The younger son takes off in only a few days and makes a mess of his life. Life and death surrounds this story. Everything is quite extreme. The love offered by the father is magnanimous. We can understand the elder brother. We get him. He has done what is expected, stayed by his father's side, taken care of the property, while his ne'er-do-well of a brother blows it. How often in our families are members' feelings hurt, ruptured? There is an interest in not even being in the same room with the other. Wisdom predominates again from the main character. Graciousness offered to the elder brother as well. All that is mine is yours, my eldest son. Like the woman who finds one lost coin, or the rancher who finds the 100th sheep, here we have a son returned, and a party begins with the best food. Luke takes us from an animal, a thing, to a person, cascading and evolving in importance. What is lost is found. Rejoice. Consider what has been lost in your lives. May you find meaning and finally a way to rejoice and celebrate with that which is lost. 2 Corinthians informs us of the gospel. We are told that everything has changed. The transformative statements are certain to be with us from now on. Nothing is the same following the resurrection. We knew Jesus as human, and he was, and now we know Jesus as divine, and he is. Fully human, fully divine. The old ways of understanding are gone. We look, perceive, understand, evaluate using a new lens. Because we are a new creation. And creation doesn't stop. It keeps going on and changing. Like a circle, it doesn't stop. So we can think of God not as creator, but the creating one. What a freshness that offers us to be made new through Jesus the Christ. God is not done with us as individuals or done with us as a congregation yet. The reconciliation that is usually made possible with the intervention of God is left to people in 2 Corinthians. As we remember that the Apostle Paul is not reconciled with the church in Corinth, this takes on special and individual meaning for him and for the church. The ending theological statement that Heather read is that we are the righteousness of God. That is some responsibility, to be God in the world and act in a just and divine way. There are certain passages in the Christian scriptures that offer meaning. This is one section that does offer the significance of the gospel in very few words. Professors Brown and Beitigen have had the help of 2,000 computers working full-time for 2 years in a basement across California Street from their offices. We are like those 2,000 computers. We are working full-time as well, always seeking to promote justice and peace in our world, to find new things. If you look up in the night sky and see the constellation Orion, those two professors would ask you to take a few moments and look at the large rectangle to the right of Orion. In that section of the cosmos, they expect to find the 9th planet. They expect to find it in the next couple of years. Look up in that area. Give it a few moments. Know that it exists. Know that our triune God exists. God has expectations of us. We are to know that God is with us at times with a heavy hand, at other times with a whisper and vision. God could be clearing away something quite new and exhilarating for the church. We are to work towards these transitions within the church as new ideas are planted all around us. Let us not be afraid to try new ideas, and only if we sometimes fail do we know that we are trying hard enough. Keeping everything the same may seem like a smooth path, but it might not be the way that God intends. We are to work towards reconciliation in our lives. We are to wait and watch and know that Jesus the Christ came as a person of sin, yet as divine, without a sinless spot, to completely toss our expectations asunder. The steadfast love or kindness of God exists. Christ is the completion of the year of the Lord's favor, the time of Jubilee, when all flaws are forgiven, forgotten, and buried deep, deep underneath all. We are told that the entire creation yearns and is ready for Jesus. As he lived, died, and lives again, we are to know that we are part of the promise of the covenant. The time is now to become new, to live together in the present and not wait for a future as yet unseen. We are ripe for it, both individually and together in this sacred place. Amen.